Good afternoon, and welcome to Expose Yourself to Art, a show that looks at the creative process by inviting artists to join us in a chat about their life and their work. My name is David Schrader, and with me, after an absence of some length, is my favorite co-host, Linda Scheller. Linda, come on in here and tell us all
Hi.
where you've been. Man, I've missed you.
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a part in Prospect Theater Project's most recent production, Taco Jesus.
So how did that go? Was that a
It
fun?
was great.
Yeah.
I had a blast. It was wonderful.
So what part did you play?
Well, I was in the chorus and I was woman one, aka Velma Reed, who's a real sour stick, and got to do a lot of singing, which I always enjoy. So it really was delightful.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm happy to have you back at the show.
Good to be back.
It seemed like a long time. So
Well,
anyway,
thanks.
tell us a little bit about our guest today.
Gladly. Our guest is Jacob True, a filmmaker and recipient of a Heartland Creative Corps grant. He is a co-founder of Central Valley Film Project, and in collaboration with the State Theater of Modesto, Jacob teaches fundamentals of film to students in grades 8 through 12, and he also teaches a community class where all ages are welcome. And I can't wait to talk with him and hear more about what he's doing.
Wonderful. And we have let's introduce him with film. I think we have one queued up here and show people the kind of work he does. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it? That's not it. Oh my gosh. There it is. All right. Welcome, Jacob. Jacob, tell us about
Welcome.
this. What did we just see?
Well, what you just saw is basically a filmmaker's resume, what's called a reel, to where it's just a compilation of some of my favorite clips and pieces from the work I've done over the past 7 years. So it was just a lot of fun to cut that together at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much. It's a compilation of personal projects I've shot for fun, as well as some narrative projects for film festivals, commercial projects, advertisements. So I've had the pleasure of working in a lot of different verticals.
So tell us how this all started.
Yeah, so this all started, I guess you could say my love for film began way back in elementary school on a sick day. I was watching Star Wars on loop, just watching the lightsaber fights over and over and over again. But at some point, I had gotten bored of watching it for like the eighth time or something like that in a row. So I decided to stumble across the behind the scenes features because on another DVD I had, there were little mini games you could play. So I was hoping Star Wars would have some of those. But instead, I just got some educational content on how the film was made. And I just remember having my mind blown by how the shots were done, how it was all against this like blue screen. They were able to create this army of aliens with just like 4 people by like duplicating them in the shot. it just amazed me what someone could do. It really, you know, it kind of flipped a switch in my brain at that age that, oh, people make movies. They don't just like appear, you know? So that was the first instance where I really fell in love with it. And then my older brother had the pleasure of making a video for just a class for an assignment. And then that's what flipped the switch in my brain. Like, oh, I can make movies. You know, if he can make them, so can I. So I just started to dive deeper and deeper into the craft of film, into the art of filmmaking. Ever since I would say even sixth grade, I had been teaching myself about different techniques and stuff like that. And so I finally got to pick up a camcorder junior year of high school in a video class that I had taken over at Enoch's High School. So I finally got to put all of the stuff I had acquired, all the skills I had acquired to practice through the class. And it's just been a journey from there, just continuing to make more and more films and being able to polish it to the best of my ability.
It is. So
I understand you've been in all the 48-hour film festivals.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So Andrew Wong, I actually had the pleasure of meeting prior to him creating the 48-hour film festival. He's the founder of a San Francisco production company, Retold Productions. He's actually kicking off a Bay Area 48-hour for its first year this year in November. So if you're a filmmaker who happens to be listening to this, check it out. I hear there might be a discount for Central Valley filmmakers if you decide to make the trek up over there. But my first year was a lot of fun, and it's actually what made me pursue film as a career, funnily enough, because I had initially thought it wasn't worth pursuing because I thought you couldn't make a living off it. I thought it'd be really difficult because I didn't want to move away from the Central Valley. And everyone had told me, if you want to make a living, you got to go to LA, San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, just one of the big hubs of television or film. So I had decided to put it on the shelf, especially because MJC at the time had shut down their digital media class. So there wasn't really anything for me here. But during a theater class that I was taking, an actor friend of mine had told me about the 48 hours starting. So I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Maybe I'll do that. And I was fortunate enough to have won the Audience Choice Award that first year. And it just really affirmed to me where my position was in the community and where my skill level was as a filmmaker, to where this was something that I just couldn't put down, especially after I had picked it up again. So yeah, the 48-hour film festival has just been a blast to participate in over the years. And especially I have to credit the first one for showing me how deep of a community exists in Stanislaus County, as well as just affirming to myself that I can be a filmmaker in my hometown.
So am I hearing it right? You were mostly self-taught?
Yes, I was mostly self-taught. Of course, the value I received from the high school class, being able to pick up a camera and being able to practice what I had learned, absolutely immense. So I definitely don't want to belittle the value of the class that I had taken. But outside of that high school class, everything else I've done is completely self-taught.
Right. Well, I asked because, you were saying MJC didn't have a film class, and a lot of these places don't. It's like you have to leave here if you want to be a filmmaker. So
but not anymore, because the State Theater and Jacob are teaching filmmaking. Yay.
Yes. Yeah. No, the State Theater and I knew that was a vertical that needed to be filled. So the president of the board over there, Sam Piersdorf, absolutely amazing partner, as well as Gabby, Trisha, the whole team at the State Theater just, moved mountains to make sure that we were able to get our students all of the necessary equipment to be able to learn all of the fundamentals of filmmaking. And additionally, someone who I'm very close with, Sky Talone, is someone who helped restart the digital media program at MJC. And I believe this is the first semester of its revitalized program. So MJC is also making moves back into the digital media space. So as a filmmaker, I am just so happy to see how much the community has grown, as well as how much resources are available to us now.
A pioneer in our little community here.
Yes, I guess you could say. I don't want to put any sort of big label on it for myself.
It's impressive because a lot of people that I've talked to in the arts, can go way back into their childhood like you did, and find the roots. It's like, no, this grabbed me when I was young and I pursued it. I passionately pursued it whether there were classes or not. You know, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm
And how
hearing. Yeah.
and how fitting that you were watching Star Wars, and of course George Lucas being a Modestin himself. It's like, walking in his footsteps in a sense.
Oh, most certainly. I have to give a lot of credit to George Lucas outside of just Star Wars being a huge inspiration to myself, but even his philosophy, to where, it's very funny today to reflect on where he started, because he is the most successful filmmaker in the world, I believe. When you compare the net worths and the box office of every filmmaker to have existed, George Lucas is far and away the most successful because of his business mindset. And he thought that he could make these films outside of the studio infrastructure that had existed at the time. And he did so successfully, by producing all of this with Lucasfilm. And of course, he partnered with like a studio or two, but it was always under his, what would be the word? Always his terms. He always decided how that collaboration was going to be. And that's very much how I believe film to be today, to where with the technology that's available, with the educational resources that are available, filmmakers can easily make their dream project outside of studio control and anywhere they want to. You no longer have to make that pilgrimage to San Francisco or Los Angeles. You can make your dream films right here in Stanislaus County.
So, ideas. What's in your head about the kind of films you would like to make?
It's so tricky because as a filmmaker, and especially just as an artist, you're always more successful if you can put yourself in a really specific box, to where, for example, if you go down in Los Angeles, you throw a rock, you're going to hit someone who has a whole camera package and wants to be a cinematographer, right? So there are people who are so specific that all they do is film table shots of products. So, that final shot in a commercial where it's like, oh, Febreze. And it's like just the bottle sitting there. There's people, that's their whole job. All they do is film that shot, and just specialize in that sort of cinematography. So the more you niche down, the more successful you can be. But for myself, from an artistic perspective, I just love every area of film and every genre, to where I tend to lean more towards comedy and lighthearted films. But, I love horror films. I love thrillers, political dramas, romances. You can name it. And I just love not only consuming the film, but just considering how I would want to approach the genre as well. So I've definitely done the most comedy, I think, is definitely where I've specialized and where most people would say my skill set lies. But I love all areas of film, and I have some experience in most verticals.
Are you connected with anyone in the art community as far as writing or coming up with ideas? Is that part of how you work? Find yourself a story, find somebody or do you write your own stuff?
I tend to write my own stuff. Back before he had moved away, I had one of the founders of the Central Valley Film Project, or both of them. I would workshop ideas with them and just sort of help refine ideas that way, and then currently I have another two friends who are in the area who we have a sketch comedy group that we do stuff with. So I'll workshop ideas with them. Sky Talone, who I had mentioned earlier, who's helping with media programs at MJC. She has her master's in direction and screenwriting. So of course I will refer to her to help give me some notes. But in terms of drafting the scripts and laying down the bones, and stuff like that, I'm definitely someone who likes to put pen and paper for themselves. But I was going to say, I love to work with writers who give me the honors of passing me their scripts and their ideas and stuff like that. So I've definitely directed scripts that are not my own, but typically I tend to write my own work.
Marketing. Market. Is there a market for the things that you and your friends produce here?
Oh, most certainly. Here's how right? Is in Los Angeles, you walk up to a business owner and you go, hey, can I shoot a sketch, in your coffee shop? They'll hit you with a broom and kick you out, unless you're paying them, an exorbitant amount of money to be able to use the space, with permits, and stuff like that. But if you go here, in Stanislaus County, and you can approach a business and ask, hey, could I film in your restaurant or your coffee shop? Their eyes light up and they go, most certainly, how can I help? and I think that's a huge indicator of how film is such a unique medium that has not been tapped into enough because of some economic barriers that exist with getting equipment and stuff like that. So whenever I bring up these film projects to people, their eyes light up in such a unique way, to where you can tell they're truly engaged in the conversation. And if you look at, successful institutions like the Prospect Theater, there's clearly a demand for a theater, live theater and stuff like that between them and the Gallo, Sierra Repertory Theater up in Sonora. So who's to say there isn't an audience who would love to see locally produced films? Someone, I forget his exact name, I think it's Travis Andre Ross, just released a film called Central Valley, the movie, and it's sold out at the State Theater of Modesto. So I think that's a great indicator of how locally produced work can easily be consumed by our population. We are just waiting for more film to be coming out of the area.
Okay.
Do you generally make short films, or have you done feature-length films?
I typically do short films and short form work, because something you always hear as a filmmaker is that your first feature is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be very difficult to pull off because you're going from like a 5-minute segment to like hour 20 minutes of trying to keep an audience's attention, maintain visual interest, as well as keep costs down, because it will get very expensive very quickly if you don't know how to write the script correctly. So I've typically done short films, but with the grant that I've recently received from the Heartland Creative Corps, it's my first like pseudo feature, I guess you could call it, because it's a collection of short films that live together under one umbrella. So even though it's a bunch of different short films, they're all made with one another in mind. So that's gonna definitely reach feature length, well over an hour and 20 minutes. But it's a collection of shorts. So that's why it's kind of like a pseudo first attempt at a feature film.
So we have another couple clips here, short films. Are these connected with some of the things that we've been talking about here? Let me see if I can pull one up here.
Yeah, certainly. I would love to just play one of them, and then we can sort of dive into the piece.
Okay. Yeah, here it is. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So tell us about this before I start it up.
Certainly. So this is a success video that spawned from our inaugural session of the Fundamentals of Film course. So here you're going to get to see a little bit visually of what we do in the class, what the class looks like, as well as you could just get to hear these people's raw, unfiltered opinions on what the course is like.
Okay. So you become a teacher.
Yes. I'm a bit of a teacher on the side because, I'm here trying to cultivate the film community. The more filmmakers, the better.
Wait, have your snake going off? Oh, man, take two.
I just always wanted to make movies. It's just always been my dream. Just be in movies, just direct them. I didn't really care. I just loved movies as a kid.
When I found out about the program, I told my parents, I said, you know what, this is crucial. This is building community through courses, through education. So I said, I need to do this. I want to learn to be a filmmaker.
I didn't really know much about filmmaking in general. I knew the basics of there's editors, there's directors and that kind of thing, but I didn't know any of all the different little things that went into it. So there was just so much to learn about how to light things, how to mix different things together. And I thought all of that was really fun.
I really enjoyed this course. I thought our teacher, our instructor, did really well, making the lessons pretty easy to follow. And I thought it was a good balance between theoretical concepts of film and practical exercises, working on the equipment and stuff like that.
When I first joined, I couldn't even start a camera up, to be honest. Now that I've got my own camera, I've been able to use what I've learned here and apply it to that.
Production of our short film was very fun. It was interactive. Everyone there was always laughing, having fun, it's not just about creating a movie, it's about creating memories,
It was stressful, to be honest, and there was a few bumps in the road, but at the end, seeing it come to life and seeing everyone work around each other and stuff, I think it was really fun to do. It's a lot more fun to do things that I didn't think were going to be as fun to do. Like I never thought about doing any kind of editing. And then when I got a chance to actually do it, it was so much fun. Picking little bits and pieces to stick together and all of that was a lot more interesting than I thought it would have been to me, since I was more interested in the writing and things like that. So that's probably one of my bigger takeaways.
I think over this course, I learned mostly how to work well in a team environment and to create something where everyone would be able to work with it and mesh efficiently.
Filmmaking is a collaborative art form. You don't just learn about filmmaking, you really also learn about working and communicating with all your other peers, and you build friendships through that way. And you become more comfortable with not just your passion, but with yourself, to be able to talk about, filmmaking and all this stuff,
It's so much more of an easy way to dip into doing it than to just jumping off the deep end and going straight into working on a set somewhere. I think it's a really great way to learn how everything works before trying to actually go out and do it professionally.
Join this program if you're on the fence. This is definitely something that, if you're interested in this field in the future, is a great gateway. This is a great introduction and start.
You don't have to have friends in this course. You can either make them, or you can just laugh with other people and just have fun. It was honestly just so memorable. This class just gave me so much, and I'm definitely gonna do it again.
I wish I could stay a week longer if I could. It was really fun meeting everybody and knowing people in the same room filled with the same interest as me, and how it was fun to make friends in the same field. And I hope that you guys do make classes for this, because I'm definitely going to be on board.
If I could say it was better than 10 out of 10, it was definitely over 10 out of 10. It was fantastic.
This was a really, really fun class, and I'm so glad I heard about it. And I can't wait for whatever classes go next.
If you want to be a filmmaker, you don't have to start a big movie university in Los Angeles or New York. It could definitely be here at Modesto at your state theater.
Okay.
I can imagine some of those students going on into their careers in film or editing, or, and then contacting you and saying, wow, Jacob, look, my dreams have come true. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my dream, 100%. I just believe that, if you give, you get, if you're someone who believes in the community and tries to uplift the community will respond the same way. They will try their best to uplift you, So it is just my hope that these artists continue on in their filmmaking journey. And I mean, some of them have, through the Fundamentals of Film course, the State Theater has already been contacted by numerous, organizations asking for video work from our students. So we've been able to put them into paid internships in multiple locations already. We've only had like 2 sessions of these, so we're immensely grateful and gracious to the organizations who've reached out to us to give our students the opportunity to apply what they've learned in a real world environment.
Whoa, that is so great. How neat.
Yeah, no, again, just super grateful, and I love it. And just seeing these students like come up. This wasn't necessarily through my film course, but rather going back to Andrew Wong. He had held a filmmaker boot camp. I believe it was pre-COVID. So this was like in 2019, sometime around there. And there was a filmmaker, Solomon Winters, which is a great director's name. He was a young student, and immediately you could tell he had such a unique creative voice. And he was able to pick up the skills through that boot camp. And then sure enough, just a year or two later, I think, a year or two later, he has won numerous awards at the Modesto 48-Hour Film Festival, Audience Choice Awards, I believe. And again, it just shows that if you invest in the community, there's a lot of return on investment.
Great.
So tell us about this group or organization that you're part of here. You mentioned it started some years ago, and so what role do you play? Are you the primary teacher at this point? Tell us about it.
Yes, certainly. So the best way to describe the Central Valley Film Project is that we're an educational production house. So like I said, when people hear about filmmaking, they think of places like Los Angeles and San Francisco, New York, these big commercial hubs, where in reality, in the modern day, these hubs are no longer like necessary. It's merely imaginary lines that people are drawing in terms of where you need to go as a filmmaker. So the Central Valley Film Project's mission is to sort of break the creative monopoly, as we call it, of these areas and just allow filmmakers to thrive wherever they choose, whether that be in their hometown or in another city. So we are aimed at giving people the skill set, but through educational curriculum, and empowering our community that way. We are here to inspire the community, through storytelling. That's how I began. That's how most filmmakers began. It's just a moving story that gets them started. So we create narrative work to help sort of uplift the community and lead by example. And finally, we do commercial work as well to help keep the lights on, as well as just enable small businesses who may not have access to, premium video making in these commercials that these larger companies have, and just support those mom and pop shops through premium film.
Okay. So, so you do commercial work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as of right now, we've done a lot of commercials for the State Theater of Modesto. So I've been very grateful for them providing me those opportunities to help spread the word about those arts programs going on. We also do a lot of work with Sierra Repertory Company up in Sonora. So we cut together trailers for their shows and stuff like that. And we are currently in discussion with multiple local organizations to create some more commercials as well.
Okay. So do you have a set crew that you work with? I guess that's one way of asking it, or is this a
yeah.
band?
Certainly. We have some regulars, I guess you could call it, to where as of right now, since we aren't a fully established company to where I could have someone on payroll or something like that, all of the people we have are just contractors, depending on the gig. So someone I work with often is Connor Demings. I met him at another agency I used to work at. He tends to help me with editing. He helps grip, so he'll help me set up lights, stuff like that. But I have a variety of other people I'll reach out to for more specialized items, just depending. Nicole Gutierrez is someone I work with frequently. Anthony Messias, Noah Goldberg. I have a laundry list of all sorts of different filmmakers, depending on the project.
I'm just trying to get a feel for how big this is, or
That's the beautiful thing about this is the Central Valley Film Project is fully scalable. So a lot of the time, just because we tend to work on smaller projects, because that's what people, are looking for, it's usually only about like a couple people on the set, myself and like someone like Connor to help me get stuff sort of set up. But with this grant recently, where we've received funding, we immediately scaled to over, I think we're reaching nearly 100 people have touched this project across all of the crew and cast and stuff like that. So again, it just shows that people are hungry and they're ready to create art if you're able to sort of just give them the means to do it. So we're fully scalable to where we're fortunate enough to be densely connected with our arts community, whether that be through performers and cast members or through crew members.
Now, how do you approach sound design and editing?
Sound design and editing is something that is so underappreciated as a filmmaker. Here's a quick teacher moment for myself. Is something that immediately separates a professional film from an amateur film is the sound design, to where no one wants to hear a film like this for 10 minutes, so we typically try and get a clean audio track, clean dialogue on set, to where all you're hearing is the performer who you want speaking on the set. So you only capture that. And then from there, everything else is artificially added through post-production. So let's say if it's on a busy street, you don't want cars passing during the dialogue pass. You want to add that in later so you can turn that volume up or down as you would like in the edit. Because if you capture it on the day with the dialogue, if a car's passing by while someone's talking, it's just stuck there. There's no way to clean that up as of right now. So that's why you want to make sure you separate everything into another audio track to where it's either just the dialogue, some of your special effects, or sound effects, and then anything that's non-diegetic. So if there's like a scary sting or something like that, you could throw that in. Music tracks. Typically my audio tracks, I have about at least 15 audio tracks on any given film, whereas someone who's just starting out may have like 2 or 3. So definitely be looking into how to layer and organize your sounds for maximum cinematic output.
Are you using Pro Tools or what program?
I typically edit in Adobe Premiere Pro. So that's sort of where I
Okay.
lay out sort of my soundtracks. And then if I'm mixing and mastering and getting a little deeper, I'll use Adobe Audition. I live in the
And-
Adobe Creative Cloud.
Oh, cool. Do you teach this then also?
In the fundamentals course, we teach basic sound design. So we make sure that people understand that there's dialogue and then your special effects, Foley, music and stuff like that, and different techniques to capture clean audio in tricky situations. For example, if all you have is a boom pole, but your shot is someone extremely far away and you want to capture audio of that, that's something you need to kind of figure out and learn. And that's something we teach as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it sounds like such fun.
So one of the things I noticed in this previous video was the emotional impact that participating in this had on the participants. Trying to put that into some kind of perspective. I mean, it's a true art form, I guess, if it touches people and allows them to express what they have inside, or I don't know, how do you relate to that aspect of it?
I mean, we're getting into the core of art, to where it's so amazing what it can do, not just for the artist, but for the community at large. Because when I think of my first films in high school, were they what you saw recently in the reel when we kicked off this conversation? Absolutely not. It was filmed on a little camcorder in my high school hallways with a billion mistakes I could point out today. But is that what people noticed when they watched those videos? No, because I had put in such passion and you could feel the fun I was having when I was making those films. And because of that, people had fun watching the films, so that's something I always communicate to people who are just starting out, that no one's going to be picking on you as hard as you're going to be. You know what I mean? You're going to pick on yourself the most, to where you're going to be like, oh no, this shot's overexposed. I framed this wrong. I can barely hear him here. But in reality, if you're just having fun making it and you're just coming from a really authentic place, that's going to come across first before anything else. And people are going to relate to that immediately. And when you think of why people pack up to Los Angeles and San Francisco, I'll tell you what, it's not because there's less traffic or because it's a safer area or it's a cleaner area, right? No, those places are, filthy and crowded, but people go there because of the arts. That's what attracts people to these communities, which is why I feel it's so essential to continue to invest as a community into the different arts, into these different art forms, because as you said, you could see the impact that it's had on people who hadn't had access to these tools. It's immense and it's amazing. And that's what keeps people in our hometown.
They are exhilarated, I can tell. And what I love about filmmaking, one of the many things, is that it's a synthesis of so many arts. I mean, you've got visual art, except it's moving. You have sound design, so you've got all the, as you said, Foley and dialogue and music, and then how they're going to be working together. If it's a narrative film, you've got storytelling. Oh, it's just, it's like the best of all worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. And that definitely played a hand in why I chose film. Just like you said, it's, the best of all worlds, as you could put it, to where you get to dabble a little bit in the visual arts, as well as, costume design, set design, how the performers bring these characters to life. You get to be a writer. You get to see, a composer, bring it to life through music, in such a subjective means. It's something that I think dabbles in a little bit of everything, which is why if I had to make an argument, I always like to call it the best art form. But of course, I'm very biased. I am a filmmaker. So that's not to demean any other art form.
Yeah.
As I said, it wouldn't be anything without the combination of all of those.
Right.
And I think, too, when you speak of our community, if a person were to study in LA, New York, what have you, they're going to probably go outside of the city limits to make the film. But here we have such a unique culture. Well, we have so many unique cultures, and we have agriculture, we have, all these different aspects that, well, you think of George Lucas and his breakout, American Graffiti. I mean, that's here. That's a story that went forth to the world, but it was integral to this specific locale. So I just think it's marvelous that you're doing this here and giving everyone a chance to express themselves through film in this place.
Yeah, my mission for very long term, towards the end of my career, is that I will have laid down the infrastructure to where film will be extremely accessible and it'll be very approachable to both professionals who are looking to enter the area for the first time, as well as people who are just starting in our area trying to find their foothold in filmmaking. So where reason why people go to Los Angeles is there are websites where you can just type in what kind of location you're looking for. And there's just a laundry list of different locations at different rates. And you get to immediately understand what your options are. And stuff like that partially exists thanks to our film commission, but definitely not to the level of detail that exists. And you can't blame them. It's very difficult without the support of a lot of different areas to get that laid down. But if we continue to work over the, long term, over the decades, then certainly we'll be able to catch up to these big, cities and these commercial hubs to where we'll equally have as much infrastructure ready for anyone who wants to create a film in our area.
Yeah. Listening to you, one of the things that pops in my head is, and you say you don't have to go to LA or New York to do this, but that's where the general public is focused. And they tend to be focused on the celebrity part of that. And when I'm listening to you speak, I'm thinking of every time a celebrity gets an award, they say, oh, it takes so many people to do this. And they try to name a couple. And, it's like, you guys are the true art behind it. I mean, you make it happen. The celebrity, the actor, actress, does their part. But, putting it together it's the real art.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, most certainly. There's an argument to be made to where I always think of it as like a mosaic, right? So where it's all these different little bits and pieces coming together, and the sum is larger. What is it? The sum is larger than the like whole of its parts, or something like that. I'm butchering the phrase, but essentially, when you bring these little bits and pieces together, it creates just something magical that no one could have done on their own. And sure, there's an argument to be made about like some pieces of glass are larger than others. Right. But if I ever reached a point to where I had cast members, speaking on behalf of my films and stuff like that, I would just be grateful to have reached such a point that my cast members want to talk about my films. So I always love to just promote the collaborative nature, as you sort of highlighted, that everyone just contributes to the project.
What are some of your films or favorite filmmakers?
Well, of course, again, biased since I'm from Modesto and I grew up on these films, but George Lucas, of course, has to be numero uno, I think you would say. And in terms of someone I draw a lot of inspiration from recently, I would say Steven Spielberg is someone who just knows how to make like a true like blockbuster film that can apply to everyone. So where if you think of people like Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, they are indeed masters of film. But they tend to make much more mature films, not the kind of films you could show to a 10-year-old, right? Whereas Steven Spielberg, he's made such amazing classics that apply to all ages. And that's somewhere I would like to go, to where I'm not trying to make children's films necessarily or family films, but rather films that are engaging to all ages and are able to just sort of, provoke that creative stimulation in anyone who watches them. That's just my goal with films, is just to sort of continue to poke and prod the creative souls of my audience members.
Okay. We have another video of yours. Would this be an appropriate place to show it?
Yeah, sure. This is a fun one that sort of shows the balance of tones that I've sort of talked about a little bit.
Let me see what I can find here. It's called Sliced.
Yes, this one was the winner of the 2023 Modesto 48-Hour Film Festival. Yeah, very proud of this one.
Okay, so let's cue it up and take a look at it.
Hey, you feel that spike? Ooh, hey, let's take another shot. Yeah.
Hey man, what do you want?
The candy bowl's right there.
I got the pizzas for y'all. Thought I might have messed up, but 2704 Clearview Court, right?
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah. Hey, you got any?
Forgot. Happy Halloween. Guess who got the pizzas?
Wait, did you order pizza?
Did I?
Did you order Hawaiian?
I didn't order.
Trey, well, I'm not gonna eat this, so
Fine, just toss it then. Toss it. I don't care.
is anyone else gonna eat this? Okay, then I guess I will throw it away.
Let's check this one then. Ooh.
Yo, Debbie, I'm like straight off the bean right now. Like I feel like I like drink like way too much.
Yeah? This is that, man.
No, but like it's like in a bad way because I saw somebody like completely nibbling on Casey's corpse outside, like carnivorously. Yeah, like it was kind of making me hungry. I'm feeling like I could use a slice of pizza right now.
Fight. Fight. Fight.
Hey, you can put me down now.
What are you doing?
Don't leave me. He's here to kill me.
Yes, which is why we need to go.
It wouldn't be that easy. That's my neighbor, Alan. I always park in front of his house. He tells me not to, but I still do, and I don't know why. He's coming for me.
Oh my god, you are so stupid. You are so self-absorbed and selfish. I'm tired of you acting like this. You need to get it together.
You're right. I need to get it together. I'm the only one that can stop him.
That's not what I'm saying.
I mean, you wouldn't stand a chance.
You know what? You're right. You got this.
Pizza time.
We don't have time for this. Maybe we do have time for this. No, please. Don't flash me.
That's so great. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, thank you. And for context for the viewers, of course, the title of the film festival should give a hint as to the conditions that film was made in. But the whole purpose of the Modesto 48-hour film competition is that you receive a random genre, line, and prop for your team. And then your team has to create an entire film within 48 hours. So you start Friday evening and you have to turn in a complete film Sunday evening. So that was made in a span of 48 hours.
And the saying, the line that you had to include was, "We don't have time for this."
Yes, the line was, "We don't have time for this," and the prop was a hat. And of course, there were many hats in that film.
It's so clever. I love, when he's got the pizza slice. It really makes
That's
me laugh.
something we knew we wanted to do because we could have went with like a traditional horror route, but we just wanted to give it like a fun retro slasher feel because that's just something that really spoke to a lot of our cast members. In terms of the sort of horror films that we grew up watching, was sort of the more fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of film. So we knew we wanted to go that route with the tone.
Well, I can't wait for the next 48-hour film competition. You should go, David. It is just the best time seeing these films.
So when is the next one?
The next one is going to be in March for the Modesto 48-hour film competition. And then if people are wanting to try their hand in the Bay Area, that one will be coming up in November. And you can check that out with like at SF48hour. I think if you look that up on like Instagram, that should pop up with all of the information.
So how do you enter?
So you can enter through Andrew Wong's website, which I think is just retoldproductions.com. Or if you follow the State Theater Modesto's page or the Retold Productions page, they will be posting updates as well, giving you sort of updated information on how to enter the contest. Because sometimes it's a little different every year, but usually the broad strokes are the same.
Okay. So in the time we have left, we need to talk about the Heartland grant that you won and the project that you're working on as part of that. So tell us about that process. How did you decide to get involved and write a grant? And
yeah, certainly. So I had heard about the grant through the State Theater president, Sam Pierstorff. He had sort of informed me of this grant and just that it was for artists' sake, which is really not only is a grant of this scale unheard of in our region in terms of exclusivity, but it's unheard of in terms of the like creative license that you receive as an artist, to where typically grants are, really bureaucratic, very like on top of you all the time. And certainly United Way of Merced and the Heartland Creative Corps are doing their due diligence, but they're just extremely collaborative in helping a lot of artists such as myself, who this was their first time applying for a grant and working with a grant. So as a first-time grant writer and someone who's participated like with the grant process, it's been extremely approachable and a lot of fun. And I'm really grateful to Sam for bringing it up to me. So that's how I had initially applied for the grant, and how I had received it was through the guidance of Sam, the United Way of Merced, and the Heartland Creative Corps as well.
So what's the focus of you? What is the focus of your grant?
Yeah, so the way I like to describe it is that it's a two-piece project. Our first piece is what I call the narrative piece, to where we are producing 5 premium short films. So these are really high-end, planned out, super diligent short films to really elevate the community and just demonstrate what happens if you give us just a little bit. If you give us an inch, we could go a mile, as a community of artists.
Sure.
So that's the first piece, is just creating 5 short films that are expressing the perspectives of artists who typically have not had access to these tools before. For example, it'll be myself. So of course I'm an experienced filmmaker. I wanted to make a film myself. And then I knew this was a large project. So I enlisted the help of Sky Talone, who of course has her master's. But outside of that, these are a lot of student filmmakers who haven't had the chance to go on a large set and who come from sort of impacted zip codes. And those directors are Pablo Hernandez, David Fernandez, and Naomi Garcia. So those are the other 3 directors we are collaborating with to create the narrative end. The second part is a documentary highlighting the entire creation of these projects. So it'll just serve as a story, detailing what happens when you give, a community of artists just a little bit of funding. So just really highlight what happens when you just give us that little bit, as well as just being educational for filmmakers in our area to sort of show that we hit our own hurdles, we have our own share of problems, and how you can problem solve as a filmmaker when you're sort of going through these issues yourself.
So how far are you along in this process? Have you started
So
at this point?
yeah, so we are very much underway in terms of planning and writing and stuff like that. So 4 of our 5 scripts are finalized. The drafts are locked in. 4 of our 5 films are cast. So we have all of our cast members picked out and stuff like that. So now we are just sort of, dotting our I's, crossing our T's, and doing our due diligence before entering production. Our first film will enter production by the end of October. So at the very end, we're going to be kicking off our first short film. And then from there, we're going to be rolling until probably the end of January will be when we wrap our 5th short film. And then from there, we'll be in post-production from February to April. And hopefully we'll be able to share all these films with the community by April.
Oh, wonderful. So you sent us a couple pictures. Are these related to this project?
Yes, they are. So these right here, or this one in particular, is an image from our audition. So the Prospect Theater, and specifically their new venture, the Artist Lab, was very gracious in allowing us to use the space. It was donated in kind. Nothing but love for Jack Souza and Rachel Pierre, who was our contact. Just phenomenal people. Like I remember Rachel, when we first arrived, was literally on her hands and knees cleaning the ground to make sure that it was as clean and ready of a space as possible for us, which again just shows how above and beyond they were going for someone who wasn't even paying. I just asked if I could use it, and they were very again gracious in allowing us to use the space. So mad props to Prospect Theater for allowing us to come in.
And the next one is...
Yeah, so this is a table read for our slasher short film that's kicking off at the end of this month, Stranger in the Night. So this is all of our cast members getting to go through the script all together for the first time. And this is taking place at Visit Modesto, which again provides a lot of wonderful resources to our local filmmakers. So if you're a local filmmaker in the area who needs some help in acquiring permits or finding locations like a table read, they're more than happy to sort of help point you towards areas where you can find those resources.
So where did this script come from?
So this script was drafted by Pablo Hernandez, which is the gentleman on the left in sort of that red pattern button-up, as well as his partner, his long-term girlfriend, Chrissy Ford, who's in the vest on the right across from him. They both drafted the script together. And it was absolutely wonderful. It was kind of pulled from their own experience in a way, to where they had just left their theater class at MJC, and they were the only 2 left, and they were sort of talking. It was before they were dating, but they knew they liked each other, right? But across the street, they saw a very creepy figure watching them, and then he approached and began sort of closing the distance, causing them to sort of run to their car because he just wasn't being very responsive and was closing the distance on them. So they pulled that inspiration and took it to extreme lengths, of course, for the slasher genre. But that's sort of how that script spawned, was through a true experience.
Okay. So run me through again. So you're going to make these 5 films. They're going to be shown at the State Theater, or?
Yeah, we're going to be premiering theatrically within our community, and admission will be free. So that way as many people can see them as possible. And then once we're completed with our theatrical release, we intend to release these online as well, just for free consumption.
Okay. And you think will take place in April or something?
Yes. So that's when the theatrical premiere will take place. And then in terms of the online release, that will be tentative. So we'll see where we take it from there.
Wow. So I'm glad you applied. It sounds like a fun project. I mean, it sounds like a wonderful project involving people here.
Oh, it's amazing. Like I said, to have a project of such scale with, again, for the area, lots of funding, you know what I mean? But for what it is, not much funding, you know?
It's
So
true.
yeah, being able to stretch the dollar and just demonstrate again, I just really want the Heartland Creative Corps to have, you know, as much ammunition as they can have when they approach the California Arts Council in the future, you know, imploring them to continue this grant because I know the origin of the grant was through just what would be the word, surplus funding. So I definitely want to make sure that this grant is not a one-time thing. I want to do my best to try and find ways to continue funding, whether that be through the California Arts Council or whether we directly connect with the city council and funding some sort of film projects. I just want to make sure that these filmmakers are recognized and just to really demonstrate, you know, what happens when you feed our artists, and that, you know, this could be the start of a cultural revolution, not just for film, but for all the arts in Stanislaus County, Merced County, and Tuolumne County.
Okay, so
Oh, excellent.
going along with that, do you have a still photographer connected with these projects? I'm asking because I would like to, you know, post things to the Heartland people or put on our social media and say, look, I mean, my gosh, we brought this money into the community and look what's happening with it. I would like, you know, personally to give you a lot of publicity for, you know, what you're doing.
Yeah, well, certainly. I would love to connect off the air on how we could get that done specifically. We do have a dedicated behind the scenes videographer, a dedicated behind the scenes photographer. So there will be a lot of raw material for the Stanislaus Arts Council, for the Heartland Creative Corps, for United Way Merced, for any organization that wants access to these materials. I'm 100% more than open to providing those.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, if you know, if you didn't have a photographer on site, that I was going to find one for you, even if I had to do it myself. You know, no, I think this is important work. I mean,
yeah, no, it's essential. Like I said, if we want to invest in the community in a real way, I fully believe it's in the arts. People don't move to San Francisco and Los Angeles because they have, you know, no traffic, clean areas, you know, suburbs. It's safe to walk around at night. None of those things are true about Los Angeles. No one's walking around at 1 a.m. with their dog, you know, in the metropolitan areas. What's true, though, is that there's a vibrant arts scene in Los Angeles, and that's where people are going to flock to. So if we create a vibrant arts scene within Stanislaus County, or let me rephrase that, if we highlight the arts scene that currently exists in Stanislaus County, people are going to be flocking over here as well because it exists. All you got to do is just turn up a couple stones and it's right there. So if we just put in that work and highlighting the amazing artists that currently exist within our area, then we're going to have just a phenomenal time, you know, as a community.
I need to hire
Absolutely.
you a PR person for the county here. Though you just took the words right out of my mouth. You know, it isn't like developing a creative community. We have one. You know,
yes, exactly.
Unnoticed, you know, or seems to anyway. Those of us who are involved in the arts know it's here and know the incredible number of people, talented people who are here. And, you know, finding ways, as you say, to make us a destination.
Yes.
We'll never compete with LA or New York, you know, just in terms of size, but just so that people know enough about us that it's like, oh yeah, things are going on here. You know, we should pay attention.
No, certainly. If you look at what spawned Los Angeles, you know, in the giant mecca that it is, it's always through entertainment and through the arts. You know, look at Anaheim. Anaheim was a little podunk, not really anything there. And then you drop a Disneyland and then it spawns into the metropolis that it is. You know, so if you just continue to invest in these entertainment
population.
All right, in that case, we'll definitely block off a couple highway exits and make sure to keep it insular. But yeah, no, I fully agree. Our arts community is vibrant, it's existent. It's just a matter of showing it off to the unaware public.
Well, that's a good place to start. I mean, to stop for today. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for coming on with us. Thanks for sharing the things you've done and the things you're involved in. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on. It's so fun to share what's going on in the filmmaking community, and I'm more than grateful to be the face of this project for lack of a better term. And I'm really excited to highlight the amazing artists that we have working with us.
Congratulations. And I'm thrilled for you and everyone who's part of this project. Can't wait to see the finished product.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited to show it off.
Okay, so goodbye for now.
Take care, everyone.